Hello everyone, Tina here. I'm back again to share a project with you. Today we're using an embossing folder and a die set. This is from Simon Says Stamp. It's called the Splendid Daisies. What this does is that this is your embossing folder here, and then it also has 3 dies that will die cut out these 3 daisies. So if you like layers, this is wonderful. So we're going to create a layered embossed background panel for our project today. This is a 3D embossing folder, so it is thicker. Let me show you. I already separated my dies. So you can see how thick it is. Really thick. But this is what it looks like. Against my A2 panel, this is the size of your embossing folder. And these are the 3 dies that will cut out those beautiful florals. So we're going to be using this on our card today, and we're also going to be using some mini ink cubes. There's some new sets with this release. The release that I'm using is from Simon Says Stamp's Out of This World release. So these are new items to the Simon Says Stamp shop, and I thought we would swatch these out. This is the green family. I'm not sure what the name of this mini ink cube set is, but I'll link it down below if you're looking for positively saturated inks. I love that Simon's coming out with the smaller ink cubes. I'll name off the names here. This is Perfection. Pear is P-E-A-R. It's a really pretty green. And then we have Fairway. And these are very saturated inks. You have Field. Ooh, Field is nice and dark, olivey. You have Celery. Very vibrant celery. You have Limelicious. Limelicious. I said that wrong. Limelicious. And we have Sprout. So we have a beautiful array of positively saturated mini ink cubes. And for my colors today, I think I'm going to use, I like this one. So I believe this is Limelicious. Yeah. So that's the one we're going to use today. And I'll just put these back. Last month I shared this set with you, and I'm going to use one of these inks for my project. We're going to do a little ink blending over our embossing. So I thought we would use Bubblegum. Is a nice color. Since we're swatching, I think I'm going to use Bubblegum for my card for this, from this set. And I'll leave the mini ink cube sets down below if you guys are looking to try the positively saturated inks. Okay, let's put this off to the side, and we're going to do a little bit of embossing. Now what we're going to do first is I'm going to die cut out my florals here. I'll run this through my die cut machine, and I will be right back. When there's dies that coordinate with your embossing folder, I like to die cut first, because that way I get the detail, the more intense detail. Now I'm going to open up my embossing folder, and I'm going to flip it around because the image is flipped around, I'm thinking. And I'm going to just follow along. And I will find my placement, kind of like a puzzle a little bit. And then I'm going to use, this is Simon Says Stamp's very low tack tape. I'm going to tape this down to my embossing folder. And I'm going to do the same thing with the rest. Flip it around and we'll just line it up here. And we'll do our third flower. Now I'm layering this not on the raised section. This over here is the raised section. This is the opposite side. So it's just easier for me to not use the raised section. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to run this through my die cut machine, and I'll be right back. So I ran this through. We're going to open it up, and then I'm going to remove my images here. And since this is very low-tech tape, I'm going to remove my tape here. And look how pretty that image is. And I'll do the same with the rest of them, and then I will run this through one more time, but on a card front panel. So we have a beautiful embossed background panel with some flowers that we can layer together. Now we're going to do a little bit of ink blending, but before we do that, I'm going to create my background for my card today. And I'm going really easy. I want some bright colors for these flowers, and so I love black and white with bright colors. I'm going to be bringing in the Simon Says Stamp Fractured. This is a cling stamp. And I think just some straight lines in my background are going to work fabulous for my card today. I'm bringing in my stamping positioner and also my card base. We're going to add some lines to our card base right on the front here. I think we'll put this here. We'll pick it up, and then what I like to do is, that's pretty tacky. This is some double-sided tape, and I'm going to actually add a little bit of tape behind my card base as well. And then I'm going to find an area here where I can get all those fractures. And then I will flip over my stamping positioner on the opposite side, and then I'm going to press down really good. And now my card is where I want it, and I can ink up my background. For this, I'm going to be using just my black ink pad. I'm going to just ink this up. And we'll go ahead and cover this. And it worked great the first time. So I'll take this out, and then I'm going to remove the adhesive. And then our background is done on our card base. I'm going to bring in my stamp and stencil mat, and now we're going to continue with our ink blending. I mentioned I want some bright colors, so I picked out some colors here. These with the full paws are hybrid inks. I don't have the entire Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks, but I like the fact that there's now some smaller ink cute options. So we have yellow, orange. We have the Positively Saturated Limelicious. We have the Positively Saturated Bubblegum. And then we also have a teal. These are the hybrid inks, but I think they'll blend just as well. So we're going to start off by ink blending our flowers. So we'll just tack those down to my stamp and stencil mat. And we're going to go over with our inks here. Let's see. For this one, I'm going to use my orange. And I'm just going to add a little color. Whenever I ink blend images like this, I do like some darker tones in certain areas because it just adds a lot of dimension. And you don't need really too much. I think that will work out great. For this one, we're going to use our yellow. Wonderful. And for the larger one, we're going to use bubblegum. Some pretty pink here. Now since we have a bold background, I want bold flower centers. To do that, I'm going to bring in my detail blending brushes. I'm going to use my gray one. And I'm going to go over the flower centers. And I'm going to use my black ink here. And I'm going to go over intensely in the center. And then I'm going to kind of fade out. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I finished the ink blending with my darker ink in the middle, and as I was looking at it, I did decide, for one, I put a little bit too much black on this one, and I thought this orange was a little bit too much like my yellow, so I ended up going for a more corally orange here. So I switched it out. I just die cut it out and changed out the colors to make it a little bit more corally. And I also thought we would add some black dots to the center of my flower. So I took my Memento marker, and what I did was I added dotted detail in the flower center. Since we have that black and white background, I thought some dots would be really pretty, but it just wasn't as strong as I wanted it. Let me show you. You could barely see the dotted detail. So I went over the flower center with some stickles. This is silver glitter stickles. And what this did, and I love the way this looks with the dots that I created. What this did, let me show you. This is my silver stickles. So you can see the dots that we created without my camera going blurry. And then I added my diamond stickles on the top. So this gives me sparkle and dimension. And I didn't use it at Christmas time. Usually my gold and my silver stickles I always use at Christmas time. So I thought we would just add a little extra sparkle with this rather than using gems or anything. So those are my flowers. I'm going to carefully pick these up. And then we'll put these off to the side and we're going to work on our background. We'll let those dry. I'm going to go ahead and place my background panel on my Stamp and Stencil mat, and then using my blending brush, I'm going to pick up some ink and I'm going to go halfway mark along the bottom of my panel here. I want some color. Now we are going to end up trimming this down, and I am going to go up where those stems are here. But that's the only section that I'll go up here. So making sure those stems are fully covered. And then for the rest of the area, I'm going to go around this with my teal colored ink. And I am going to trim this off. So my blotchy area, it's going to get blotchier actually. So bear with me, because the outcome I think is just really pretty. Now once we have our ink blended green and our teal, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my blending tool. Now I'm using my blending tool because I feel I have more control over it, especially since we're using black ink. And I'm going to lightly brush over my image here with my black ink. Now I always say this, that I mentioned that I love black with bright colors. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over, just lightly brush over those images. Especially focusing on those stems. For the most part, you're not going to see the flowers, but I just wanted to make sure that you could see the stems, like so. Just kind of makes it pop, huh? I just love that. I'm going to take off a 1/2 inch. You can see we cut off this flower. Oops. You can see we cut off this flower and this flower. And then I'm going to turn it around. And I'm going to cut off another 1/2 inch on this side. So now this flower is cut off. And then we'll do the top here. I'm going to take a little bit off the 1/2 inch off the top. Flip it around and I'll take a 1/2 inch off the bottom. So it looks like this. Now this is our home panel, so we're going to take our flower. So I tacked it down right over the existing flower. So you have the shadow underneath, but we have a little bit overhanging. I'm going to do the same thing with these flowers. Now I'm going to be working on my sentiment for the card. I'm bringing in a die set. This is the Simon Says stamp mini slimline windows. Now I chose, this is not obviously a slimline card, but I thought, for one, I already had some sentiments in here. What this is a die that will create a 3 squares that have sentiments on them. And when I die cut them out, I always have extras. And I want to add just a simple sentiment using what I already have. And I think I'm going to use the high. I'm going to trim this down with my paper trimmer. Okay. I'll flip this around. We'll put some foam squares behind here. And then I'll remove my release paper. Make sure it's the right way. And we're going to tack that all the way to the left here in that open spot. And lastly, for bells and whistles, I'm going to bring in, even though we have the sparkle from our stickles, silver stickles, I'm going to bring in my Simon Says Stamp Assorted Moonshine sequins here. Grab a little tray. And then we're going to place these where we want them. Oh. But they just sparkle really nicely. And I'll just funnel these back, and that will finish my card today. This is part of the new release. It's called Out of This World. The little set here is called Splendid Daisies. Super cute. And they have lots of these too with the die cuts, and I think you could do this image for the most part with any of those. But that's my card today. Thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.